specifically without only being towards disabled kids, I had in the afternoon, I had just sent a little clip of how I was interacting with my atypical son on a birthday party of my special needs daughter. If you remember, I sent it in the group. So based on that, emotional resilience, I have tried to become an emotional support both for the disabled, a little more to the disabled, and even towards the normal kids. Because as parents, we need both of us to be balanced. It should not be that we are giving only more to the disabled kid and ignoring the normal kid as such. So based on that, my presentation has taken care of both, and I had not used the word disabled as such, and rather I have used word kids, so that parents can connect and understand that it's the same for a way of dealing with a special kid or dealing with a normal kid, because kids, both the type of kids, require emotional support from us. So here goes. Yeah. So becoming an emotional support system for kids, for those who have just taken some time, my first priority was, can all of you see the screen? Hello, can
Yes.
everyone see the screen? Yeah.
Yes.
My first priority was giving priority to the disabled kids, or or the kids who are needing a little bit more of us. But at the same time, because I also have an atypical kid, I have found that at many instances I have given more priority to the disabled kids and ignored a bit of the atypical kid. So today in my session, I am trying to merge both and and tell, of course, all the slides with the slide I have to be explanatory, that we as parents, it's our duty to make sure that all both type of kids we have do not feel neglected and are always accepted. So with the next slide, the first, I don't know why it's not again going.
It moved. We could see it.
Can you see? Yeah, it's still not going. I don't know.
Do you want me to share the screen so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
it's coming. Yeah, it's coming now. Yeah.
see?
Now, so first of all, we have to make a strong emotional connection. That took me the worst time to do, because initially it was that I was just trying to just understand, forget about connection, just understanding the kid, what their thoughts are, how to express them. And even if the girl, like if you remember my week 2 weeks before, even if the girl was faltering or failing, to make sure that yes you can do it, telling her every time that yes you can do it, giving that unconditional support was very vital for me. Second is, so that every time when she was not able to walk, it used to happen that she used to come and cry, mom, I'm not able to walk, everyone can. So she should be that child, that disabled child should come and tell you that she's not able to do this. At the same time, your atypical child, they are doing something that is a big milestone for them. And you should also be there for that child and say that, yeah, you are doing this. Oh, this is so fine. Okay. Your sister is now trying to do this. Can you also help me do that? So what I had tried to do is, along with me becoming an emotional support, I had made sure that my normal child was also integrated into helping the disabled child uh, proceed, like at the simple stage of learning, proceed to achieve success for what she wanted, so that she can seek guidance and make the efforts to get out of the difficult situation. Second is, promote healthy risk taking. Especially when I started with her walking, when we started with her talking, she was very shy and she still is very anxious, like I have told in the last post. I made sure that she faltered. She did fall. She scraped. She was there were swellings in her legs when she was starting the walking and everything. I let her do. Of course, I made sure that it was not something like something you're going to touch a fire and you don't know that the fire is going to burn you. I'm not helping that. As a parent, I had to make sure that I was there. I was watching. I was observing. But at the same time, I was letting her do it, because she needed that confidence that yes, I'm falling, I will be better next time. Because like we have with normal kids, you are riding a cycle, you have to fall down. You have to brush yourself up. You have to have wounds for you to learn a cycle. It's the same with a disabled kid also. Trying to get the kid out of her comfort zone, this has been the toughest for me, because having an anxious child who already knows what her capabilities are, what her disabilities are, making sure that I could make her go forward was the toughest part of me. I had to keep on poking. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. Boosting her morale for every second. And this is something that is still a process for me till now. Trying to initiate her to say, ask someone, I want that sweet. Can you please give me that sweet? Oh, mama, that is a new cycle. Can I learn to do cycling? Because she's not good in mm, social sports like football or things where you have many individuals playing. She's very good in swimming, individual sport. She's good in horse riding. So I made sure that when she's taking up a sport, it's something that she can like. And at the same time, when I'm taking her out of her comfort zone into a new sport, I'm not ignoring my normal child. I'm making sure that my son, he is very social and he's very competitive. It should not turn that when he's playing football or when he's playing cricket, he shouldn't. Initially, he used to do that. He used to come and make sure that my daughter also tried to play football, but she could not cope with the situation. She got very anxious. Then I had to sit both the kids down and make them understand that my son likes competitive sports, my daughter likes individual sports. So for me, it was essential that I told her, yeah, you do the sport that you like. Your brother is going to be with you. He's going to support you when you're riding, especially when you're afraid with the horse, or when you are playing tennis, there is no one to pick up your ball and stuff. And what you can do, because you're not playing football or cricket with him, when he's playing the game, you have to make sure that you sit in the sideline. And I actually do that. I take her to a game where my son is playing and make sure that she cheers the loudest. I don't care whether someone is telling that she's very loud and stuff like that. I make sure that both the kids are supporting each other in their individual sports so that they can succeed. That is one thing that we as parents can make sure that we and make sure is the only way we can make sure is of course by talking. Make sure that we talk to both the kids individually and make both of them go out of the comfort zone and merge into a point where both of them can become good in their stuff. Second is labeling emotions. This is something that I have found specially pertaining to my child. Even with my daughter till now, I find it tough. She is feeling like crying. You can look at her face, but for her to say, Mama, I want to be here, I have to be there. Till now, she's almost 16 now. I have to tell her, okay, you are feeling like crying. Are you feeling overwhelmed? You want to leave the room? I have to keep on asking questions. You are sad. Are you feeling that someone is not good with you? Is that person not talking to you? This is something I have to spend more time with my daughter as compared to my son, because being a normal child, my son comes and tells it to me. But for my daughter, I have to make sure that I am labeling her emotions, because some way, because of her anxiety, perhaps because of her condition, perhaps she is not able to express. It comes out in a different way. She is upset, she's shy, she's afraid. It comes out as anger. It comes out as a tantrum which she has no control over. So till now, of course, I don't know how many long I will take. I find that I have to point out that this is the emotion she's feeling, and majority of the time it's always 100%. Till now I have seen that when I pointed out a situation where she is feeling hungry and she's feeling angry, she's feeling upset, she's feeling shy, she's feeling anxious, whenever I say that, I have seen that yeah, she is actually feeling that, but she was not able to express her emotions, give her a name to the emotions. So it is very important for us to acknowledge as parents that the child is feeling some sort of emotions and not say no, it will go, you have to adapt with the situation. No, it does not work with a disabled child that way. This is something, teaching them with emotions is particularly for a disabled child, so that they can recognize how they are feeling and understand how to deal with it. Last 10 years, my daughter knows that even if she does not know, if she's in a new place that there's no space, I normally take her into a bathroom or a closed space, she can at least come to me or go to her brother and tell that she's feeling shy or let's go. Even if she's not saying that emotions, particularly angry or shy or anxious, she specifically tells to either of us that let's go. That's a point for us to understand that she's overwhelmed by the emotions she has. And then we go to a safe space or a safe room and then we tell her what was you feeling, what do you want to do, listen to music, wash your hands. Sometimes just putting our hands in running water helps her a lot, or just sitting in a closed room for a few minutes helps her a lot. So first point for us is that trigger when she's saying let's go, get out of the situation. That has always worked for me, for her to tell that let's go means she's overwhelmed primarily with her anxiety, which is because of all these emotions: hungry, anxious, angry at someone, unable to express something, whatever the emotions. The primary emotions is always anxiety leading to lots of things. So labeling her emotions has been very important for me. Third thing is demonstrating coping skills. This was, like I said, for the first 10 years of her life, I was myself very inept because I was trying to hide my emotions of feeling sad at her, feeling angry at her. I was trying to just be like a machine, means without an emotion, trying to be strong, but not showing that I have these feelings in me, that I am myself unable to deal with her. So when I started crying, Mama, why are you doing this? I actually do cry till now when it happens. When I started showing that I am frustrated, I am angry with her, not abusive, not shouting loudly, not being rude. When I'm saying that these are some emotions building in me and I am not able to, I am myself not able to tell you how to deal with it. You show me the way, then she works. Then she herself tells me, Mama, I want to, like I'm saying, let's go. Mama, I want some water. Mama, put some cream. These are things that calm her down. She tells me, put cream, or combing her hair also relaxes her a lot. So comb her hair. So when I started showing my emotions to her, rather than not as being from the high position of a parent, when I became more of a friend to her and tried to show her that these emotions, see, I as a normal being, I am also not able to deal with emotions at a time. She accepted and understood that her emotions are also valid. When, and then because she accepted that her emotions are valid, automatically it came to that she could come and share to me, I am not feeling fine. This helps the kids to calm and relax themselves if required with my guidance. And now it has, after 6 and 7 years of continuous uses, she tells me what she wants right at the moment. It might not be, like I said, it might not be in a public place where there are many people, but inside the closed room, she is specifically capable of telling me now what exactly she needs to calm me down. So demonstrating my coping skills as a mom has helped me a lot for her to come out and show her emotional problems, what she is facing at that point of time. Again, these breathing exercises, meditation, and yoga I've just started 1.5 years back in the safe room conditions, especially like breathing in, breathing out, holding the breath for 8 seconds. There are specific exercises which has worked for my child. In this case, I have seen that there are innumerable breathing exercises. Every mom of every child, whether a disabled, and even my son also gets anxious when he's in some stressful situations. It does happen with a normal child also. The breathing exercises is not the same for all the child. You can put 3 4 exercises that you find on the web, make both the child sit and do, like in my case, and see which exercises work for which child. For my daughter, I have seen that breathing in, holding the breath, and then when I say with a song, we have lots of song like this Jingle Bell song we have. When I'm finishing the first line, then she's leaving her breathe out. I have found that breathing in and breathing out relaxes her a lot. And the safe room conditions, a closed room. If it is not a closed room, I put her in the car, lock her from outside so that she feels safe, and I sit inside along with her. That is also something that helps a lot. Next thing is, believe me, embracing our mistakes as parents has taken me the most time to deal with. Being an Indian, we are grown up to always accept and acknowledge that our parents are always right. When we became parents, it became so that I had to show an image that I am always right, I am always correct. My son taught me, believe me, when he was 4 years old, he started telling me, Mama, you should say sorry, even if you are not wrong. Because when I'm telling sorry, I am accepting the fact that I'm sorry because I love my son. I learned this from a normal child, and I'm using it for my daughter that uh, for example, today morning I was struggling with making her right. She wanted to keep on studying. She wanted to see some video. I wanted to do studying. Then finally, I acknowledged she had some pain because of the cold and everything. She had some pain with the hand. It even happens right now. I said, Mama, okay, you don't want to write. I couldn't understand. I'm sorry. Okay, let us go and read. Once you feel okay to write, we will come back and writing. So after 1 hour of reading, when the sun got more warmer, she happily came back to the writing stuff. So this is something that we as parents absolutely need to acknowledge that we are wrong. We can learn from a child, and I have seen, especially with kids who have any sort of disability, they know what is very good for them. They know the situation that is perfect from them. We as we can say not as parents, as normal individuals, we try to, because we have grown up in a social surrounding, we always try to uh, the exact word I can say is we try to adapt ourselves to our social surrounding. But I have learned from my daughter that it is sometimes necessary that the social surrounding also adapts to her. So for that, I had to continuously keep on saying, learning from my mistakes, not doing something when she doesn't want it, doing something once she wants it. Because every time I'm feeling like I give this example of writing today, saying that I am not able to make her write, it's showing me that failures can become something to learn and grow, because that time she was interested in reading, so I could cover one more new chapter, go forward in my class one more day, and come back to the old class again and do the writing. I could finally finish the writing. So when I say that I am sorry, I have committed a mistake, I am growing as a parent, I am growing as an individual, and I am growing my child because she's accepting, oh, mama is wrong, so I can also be wrong sometimes. And if I can be wrong sometimes, I can be failing, and then I can always get a positive result. This promotes a very healthy growth mindset. I'm saying the word healthy because just able to do work is not the thing. Doing it in a happy way is very essential for a child, whether a disabled or a normal child, to grow. So a healthy growth mindset is very essential for both all of us to play and make it as a positive lesson. Again, this is something I have learned absolutely from my personal experience. Every failure that I had when dealing with my daughter, I had to say, okay, there's this saying in Hindi, अच्छा कल आज नहीं हुआ कल हो जाएगा, अच्छा कोई बात नहीं चलो चलने दो. These are common words we use. That means that okay, we have not been able to do it today, we'll do it tomorrow. Okay, let it go. Miti pao, there is one more word. Okay, let's go. Ignore the thought. When every time when I've ignored some failure that she had not able to overcome on that day, when I tried it when she was ready, 3 days, 4 days, sometimes week, sometime month, when she was ready, when I've given the, you can say the power to my daughter, I have found that this positivity had helped her. Acknowledging that today is not the day for us to complete this task has allowed me to spread a good feeling, you can say, for her to try it later. If I would have forced her, I've seen when I was younger, like when she was less than 10 years old, when I was very struggling very much, she never did that thing. When I let her go, when I left her at her own pace, she came back and did it. Mama, let's her do it today. That acknowledges optimism. Teaching your child to refrain the thought, I have put a wrong word, so as she gets good in everything. Because when she's leaving that work, that means she knows, and these children are very intelligent, like I said, she knows that right now she is not at a position to complete that mindset. When she comes back to that position of doing that work, particular work, she feels ready. And when the child feels ready, that means our work is 60% done. Believe me, the 40% is just making us sit at attention, making her go through the process and doing the work, and the work gets very easily done. one more thing. This is something that is absolutely 100% essential before before any sort of learning takes place. I know with COVID it has become a problem, but like I said, use your bed, use your sofas, use your cushions, any sort of exercising, particularly jumping, running and walking around randomly doing nothing, no specific learning like you have to do PT or something like that, nothing like that. Exercising in any format before starting a learning helps a child. I will not say only a disabled child, it's more for a disabled child, even for a normal child, it's very essential. It reinstates the learning very much. Like, for example, if you are doing 15 minutes of exercise and 1 hour of study, even a child who has hyperactivity or very anxious or is not able to cope with her studies will definitely sit 1 hour before they get out of that lesson and think of exercising. So I cannot reinstate before any study in the morning, whether you're doing academics, whether you're doing teaching life skill, whether you're doing just reading some storytelling or something, before you make a child sit of any age who has any sort of particularly disabled, if it is essential that they do some sort of exercise that they're comfortable with. If they are too cold, like it sometimes happens, I put some rubber band in my child's hands. She just goes through the rubber bands and pulls it. And that exercise that she does with her hands helps her to sit for the next 1 hour. So if we say as parents that we don't have space to exercise, it's nothing. But if we can spend time outside playing, I have found for my daughter, swing, trampoline, swimming, horse riding, these things have worked a lot. Something to do with jumping or moving around randomly, whichever works for an individual child is absolutely fine with us. Other than keeping physically fit, this free play brings a strong resilience and will help them to overcome obstacles and stress to grow. Because I have seen, I don't know how it happens, means in our time we never acknowledge that kids do have stress, but I have seen even with my youngest son and with my daughter, they do have stress, even as a simple thing as his, for my son, his friend having a particular color pencil which he doesn't have, which I couldn't buy, a particular type of rubber which he wants, that can build up stress. A friend not saying good morning to him in the morning can cause stress. So this simple things can be ignored by the child if they have exercises. Something I think the adrenaline, a medical person will be better able to say, the adrenaline, the cortisol, all those good feel hormones that builds up perhaps helps the child to uh, ignore the small things. Like we say, no, if the child is emotionally balanced, they ignore the small things of someone having this new watch or something not that I'm incapable of giving my child, or my daughter. Like for my daughter, she's not allowed to go out if she's too cold, she might catch a cold very soon. So because she's getting some other way of exercising, she ignores the fact that she's not able to go out right now, she can go on later, and she finishes her work knowing that at the end of this work that she's doing now, she will again get a chance to exercise again. So exercising a lot, I think it's even for older people, us also, if we can just exercise, even jump in place when we are cooking, believe me, it helps a lot. It especially with cooking, I've seen you sometimes, oh, especially Indian cooking, you spend so long hours that you start getting irritated. If you are able to jump there for some time, you will find that you're not interacting with the people around you as irritatingly as you do when you are in a hot kitchen cooking Indian food for hours. So exercise is something that's very good for all of us to grow. And that's all.